Alright there guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be doing my list of my top 10 favourite anime. Earlier this year I did my top 5 favourite anime. Actually no, I think it was at the very end of last year. It might have been at the very end of last year that I did that. So yeah, last time it was top 5, this time it's top 10. I haven't watched my top 5 video back, so it's either the top 5 in this list are exactly the same, or there's one difference. Which will be the change. Right, let's get into number 10. Coming in at the number 10 spot is K-On! No it isn't. Great start. It's Toradora. Toradora is the story of Ryuji Takasu, who is a normal high school student, but everybody thinks he's a delinquent because he has eyes capable of doing the death stare better than Luigi. And he meets a girl called Taiga Aisaka, and what's funny about these two is they are in love with each other's best friends. So even though at the start they don't like each other very much, they have to work together so they can get with each other's best friends. Of course, ironically, Taiga, who was in love with Ryuji's best friend, and he'd already asked her out and she said no, and then when she asked him out, he friend-zoned her. And it goes over so many different events, and then a girl called Kawashima joins in, who's a model. She starts getting in Ryuji's way of asking Taiga's best friend Kushieda out. And then we go through 23 episodes of wondering, are they going to get together? Are they not? Kushieda finally reveals her feelings for Ryuji, but the problem is he gets with Taiga. And the ending of that show, the final 2 episodes, are incredibly rushed in my opinion. The pacing is all over the place. Everything goes way too fast. But the characters of Ryuji and Taiga are definitely a good pair together. Their characters just flow very well together. Kitamura and Kushieda, who are each other the best friends of the two main characters, they're fun as well. Kushieda's fun and energetic. Kitamura is serious a lot of the time, but he has got an energetic and fun side to him, as he's the vice president of the student council. But overall, 23 good episodes and 2 bad episodes. I'm happy with that. But the 2 final episodes of the show, being as rushed as they were, that really did push it down for me. I think I'd have enjoyed it a lot more if they say, I don't know, made it like 2 extra episodes on top of the 25, made 27 episodes, and had Taiga and Ryuji's relationship actually develop instead of just going from non-existent relationship to full on gonna get married and all that. But yeah, Toradora comes in at number 10. Coming in at the number 9 spot is K-On! That's what I was meaning when I said K-On! For 10, I meant it was at number 9. K-On! Is about 4 girls called Yui, Ritsu, Mio, and Mugi, who join a club in their high school called the Light Music Club, and they play shows for their school, and sometimes they could play at festivals. But it was the majority of the school. They also recruit a 5th member called Azunian, who is in the year below them. And the reason why this show is so great is the 4 main girls at least, they're just such lovable characters, all 4 of them. They're fun, they're always ready for a challenge. Well, they're not always ready for a challenge actually. Mugi is sometimes ready for a challenge, but Ritsu and Yui usually are like, I don't want to do it. But the 4 girls' personalities all blend very, very well together, and all the Both seasons of K-On! Are awesome. If you want a really, really good slice of life anime, with 4 cute anime girls, 5 if you count Azunyan as cute, and just having fun, playing for their music club, enjoying themselves, just getting along with it, just getting along with life, then then this definitely should be one you take a look at. And that's why K-On! Comes in at number 9. Coming in at number 8 is Neon Genesis Evangelion, the first of two 90s anime on this list. Evangelion was very interesting. It's the story of Shinji Ikari, who is a normal and just a completely normal guy in high school, but then his dad wants him to pilot these mecha robots called Avas to fight off this evil being known as angels. Only Shinji can pilot one of the Avas, and he meets the person who ends up being his guardian throughout the show, Misato. Then he meets Asuka, who's actually is actually a tsundere. I didn't actually know at the time of watching because she doesn't look like one, or even she doesn't really act like one. She's just always mean to him. Like, I've never seen her appreciate him, apart from maybe once or twice, but not often. And of course, many things go wrong with the Avas. Maybe they don't work, or they start acting on their own. But it's Shinji's job to keep everything in check with his Ava, as he also meets, as I said, Asuka and Rei Ayanami, who happens to be one of the other Ava pilots, who doesn't really have any feelings. She's basically like a robot. She talks in very, very simple sentences, and not really anyone likes her because she's just very, very unenthusiastic about everything she's doing. But as the episodes progress, it gets more and more interesting, with new problems for the Avas and new solutions have to be made by the characters in order to save them. But the final episode of that show is incredibly confusing. It's about Shinji. It's basically about Shinji accepting himself for who he is, and having every version of all the other characters within his mind accept him. It really made no sense, and I'm still confused now about it. Like, it had nothing to do with the Avas, the Angels, or really anything like that. But it does do a very good job of being an impressive mecha anime, and considering this was made in the 90s, it's still good now. If you want a retro mecha anime to watch, check out Neon Genesis Evangelion. Right, coming in at the number 7 spot is Darling in the Franxx. Another mecha anime, and funnily enough, the anime I finished watching yesterday. I was enjoying it more and more as I watched through it, and was wondering where I should put it on this list, but I opted, let's pick number 7. Darling in the Franxx is about a guy named Hiro. Well, he's not really named Hiro, his name is his code number, which is 016, but he thought he should have a name instead of a code, and he gives everyone else who are parasites, who pilot Franxx. That's what the mechas are called. In Evangelion they were called Avas. In Darling in the Franxx they're called Franxx. Franxx. They are essentially the same thing as Avas. They're big mecha robots with like massive guns or melee weapons to stop beings called the Klaxosus. And Hiro meets a girl called with a codename of 002, but everyone just calls her 02. she is the only person that Hiro is able to connect with in her Franxx called Strelitzia, which is the most powerful Franxx that exists. Only Hiro and her can bond. Every other person that has tried to ride Strelitzia with Zero Two has died. Hiro becomes the first person to survive. And this is in a distant future. But for some reason the characters don't know what anything is. They don't know what love is, they don't know what marriage is. They don't know anything about that. But two of the characters eventually do fall in love and even have a baby, and at the end of it all the characters have had babies by the end of the show, which is really interesting. But one thing that makes no sense about that show is, if you check its genres, romance is not one of the genres. I really think it should be, because there is quite a bit of romance in that show. And the show ends with Hiro and Zero Two riding off into a portal into pretty much a different dimension to fight the Klaxosaurs, and all they have to, and they do with it, they have to fight pretty much for the rest of time. But they do promise they will come back, and everyone else is waiting on Earth, waiting for their return. So yeah, Darling in the Franxx is a much more satisfying ending, and an ending that just makes sense than Evangelion did, which is why I put Darling in the Franxx above Evangelion, because it makes more sense with everything that goes on. Right, now it's time to come into the number 6 spot, the end of the bottom half of this list. Coming in at the number 6 spot is Assassination Classroom. Assassination Classroom follows the story of Koro Sensei, who is pretty much a giant yellow octopus. Well, he's not really giant, but he's a large yellow octopus who destroys 70% of the moon without having to try, and then he comes on Earth to become a teacher and teaches Class 3E, who are known as the misfits of the school. And they are hated by everybody in every other class in the school, even including the principal, but he doesn't even like them. So what they have to do is, they are told they have 1 year to kill Koro Sensei before he destroys the world. And we meet characters such as, we meet the main character of the students, Nagisa, who looks like a girl, does look like a bit of a girl, but it's actually a guy. And him and his best friend Karma are the two that get the most interaction with Koro Sensei, which even includes them fighting at one point. As we later into season 2, we find out Koro Sensei's backstory of how he even became an octopus in the first place, and why he has the power to go at the speed of Mach 20, and why he's going to destroy the Earth. He's not going to destroy it purposefully. His body is just going to explode, and the Earth will along with it. And the backstory, in my opinion, see, this is my problem with anime backstories. Any backstories that are longer than an episode and a half, kind of not. Any 2-episode backstory, 2 or more episodes backstory for a single character, I don't like that. I feel like they're just dragging the backstory on and on and on. It's like, we want to know the good part, we want to know the very important parts. We don't need to know absolutely everything about the backstory of the character. But they still have to show it. And by the end of the show, just as Koro Sensei is accepting his fate that he's going to die, Nagisa holds a knife up over his only weak spot, which is his heart, which is directly behind his tie, That's where the knife needs to be implanted to get the kill. But that ending scene of Koro Sensei just before he dies, oh god, it is so sad. Honestly, if you've watched that scene and you don't tear up from it, do you even have a heart? Seriously. How can anyone watch that scene and not cry? A little bit at least. The students weren't really fond of Koro Sensei at the start of the show, and they wanted to kill him because, well, A, they'd get a crap ton of money from the government from it, but 2, to save the planet. But by the end of it, they become attached. The characters and you become attached to Koro Sensei. You don't really want him to die anymore, because he was such a great teacher and he was so nice to all of the students. But his inevitable demise does come, and it's one of the saddest deaths I've ever seen in anime. And that's why it comes in at number 6. Alright, on to the top 5. Coming in at the number 5 spot, which I'm pretty certain I can guarantee this was not on the list last time for the top 5, my top 5 anime. This series wasn't on the list. Number 5 spot goes to Soul Eater. Soul Eater is the story of the character called Soul Eater, who is a weapon, and his Meister, Maka. They go to a school called the DWMA, which is Deathmeister Weapon Academy. And what they do is they of course learn stuff like in normal school, but they also learn how to train in the Meisters and the weapons well, so their soul wavelengths can connect with each other, which gives them a better chance of winning a fight. We are also introduced to Black Star and Tsubaki. Black Star being the Meister, Tsubaki being the weapon, and then we have Kid, who is definitely the funniest character in the entire show, as he is the Meister and he has 2 weapons, Paddy and Liz, who are both guns. Now what makes Kid so funny is literally everything has to be symmetrical for him. Literally, if something is not symmetrical, he goes into a panic about it, and it's quite funny. And even the Grim Reaper himself, Lord Death, is a pretty funny character. What their job is to stop people like Medusa. She is in the show, and she tries to take over Professor Frankenstein. I'm not joking. This is actually part of the show. Frankenstein and Medusa are both in the show, and their goals are to stop any balance that is broken in the world, and they need to collect souls to become stronger. And the comedy in that show really shines, and is really damn funny, which is why it's so high on the list. Now, coming in at the number 4 spot. Now, I'm pretty sure actually, I'm not sure. I think even numbers 1 through 4 might. Some of them, I know number 1 hasn't changed, but I think this might be a little bit different in terms of last year's list. Coming at the number 4 spot is Death Note. Death Note is the story of Light Yagami, who is a very intelligent kid at high school, who happens to find a notebook on the ground of his school called the Death Note that was dropped by who turned out to be later on his Shinigami, Ryuk. The Death Note is a notebook where if you write somebody's name in it, they will die. You can also choose how long it takes for their death to happen. No, you can't. You can't choose how long it takes their death to happen, but you can choose how they die. If you don't specify how they die, how you want them to die, they will just have a heart attack. And in the beginning, when Light realizes that he can kill anybody, he starts killing criminals, but then that ends up being a crime in itself. Then he meets the very, very intelligent detective L, who is trying to solve the case of the Death Note case. And Light starts to refer to himself as Kira, and he even meets Misa Amane, who happens to also have a Death Note and her own Shinigami, and she admires Kira. As Light tries his hardest to make sure nobody notices that the Death Note actually belongs to him, and that he is Kira all along, he is able to hide it from them, and the only people that can see Ryuk are the people that touch the Death Note. That's the only way Shinigamis can be seen by humans. And the Shinigamis can see a human's life, that specific person's lifespan. It can tell you. So the Shinigami knows exactly when the human that has their notebook is going to die. Light actually manages to outsmart L and get him killed via the Death Note, which means L never solved the case. But then we are introduced to another character called Nia, who is nowhere near as cool as L, and that really does bring down the case of solving who Kira is, because all that they're shown is Nia, despite having no evidence compared to L, could figure out it was Light. And by the end of the show, Light realizes that it's over for him. The secret of Kira has been unleashed. Everybody in the warehouse that Light went to knew he was Kira, and he was shot and the police nearly shot him to death. He just about escaped, but he was killed by the very thing he found on his school grounds, the Death Note that Ryuk wrote his name in. But Death Note has some incredibly dark scenes. It has some twisted and messed up scenes where Light is literally threatening people because they know he's Kira, so he threatens them. And even after they do what he says, he still writes their name in the Death Note and kills them. But yeah, Death Note isn't great because of its action, because its action is very, very minimal. But Death Note's the tension building, that's where Death Note really shines, because of how much tension it can build up, and how the plot comes together as what Light's scheming, and how the others have to deal with how the people who are the police and the people trying to catch him have to try and figure out who to catch. That's why Death Note comes in at number 4. Coming in at the number 3 spot is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. FMA Brotherhood, funnily enough, yesterday was October 3rd, Full Metal Alchemist Day. That's quite funny how I'm making this list the day after mentioning Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is the story of Edward Elric and Alphonse Elric losing their bodies after their mother Tricia died in a house fire. They try to transmutate her soul to bring her back to life, which costs Ed his arm and his leg, and it costs Al his entire body. So Al becomes a suit of armor, which his soul is still in, which is how he's able to move. But Ed is now has to use a metal arm and metal leg. But Ed and Al have the power to use alchemy, and they join the military, which, funnily enough, one of the colonels of the military, Colonel Mustang, He's the Flame Alchemist, and he has a glove that when he clicks his fingers, he can create an explosion of fire. The enemies that the Elric brothers have to fight throughout the series, one of them is called Scar, who eventually becomes a good guy at the end of the series. But what their main enemies are the homunculi, which, funnily enough, are all named after the 7 deadly sins: wrath, sloth, greed, gluttony, lust, and envy, and pride. Yeah, all the homunculi are named after one of the 7 deadly sins. And throughout Ed and Al's adventure, they have their childhood friend Winry, who is Ed's automail mechanic. And she repairs any of Ed's automail that had been broken in a subsequent battle that he's had. But throughout the show, all they want to do is get their bodies back. And they come across many different enemies, including the Führer of the military, King Bradley, who turned out to be one of the homunculi all along, and so was his son, Selim Bradley. He was also one of the homunculi. So Ed and Al end up teaming up with Greed, the second version of Greed, as there was a first one that was killed. But the second one helps Ed and Al defeat Wrath and Pride, which is King Bradley and Selim, and they finally get their bodies back. Now, where Fullmetal Alchemist shines is character interactions, because they can be funny, which a lot of them are, as one of the running gags throughout the whole show is everybody calling Ed short, because he is really, really short compared to anybody else. Which is a good laugh, and the action scenes are actually pretty good as well. And finding out the plot that the leader of the military, King Bradley, all along was a homunculi and was actually one of the villains. Is a pretty interesting twist when you get around to it after seeing him at the start of the show as a good guy. And that's why Fullmetal Alchemist comes in at number 3. Coming in at the number 2 spot is My Hero Academia. The 3rd season of My Hero Academia has just finished this past week on Saturday, and it has blown up. Not only in popularity for me, but in popularity in general. My Hero Academia follows the story of Izuku Midoriya, a 15-year-old boy who lives in a world where 80% of the population have superpowers. Their superpowers are called quirks, and there are very different ones, such as incredible super speed, explosive sweat, anti-gravity, frog, tail, hardening, all stuff, so many different things. And Izuku was quirkless when he was born, and he never got his quirk until the most popular hero in the entire world, All Might, gave him his quirk One for All. Izuku then went to the high school of UA, as that high school turned out some of the world's greatest heroes, All Might included. So Izuku meets many people along the way, such as Ochako Uraraka, who has anti-gravity, Tatsu Asui, who has frog, Kirishima, who has hardening, his childhood friend Bakugo, who has the explosive quirk, Tokoyami, who has dark shadow, Yahirozu with creation, and etc. There's many different quirks. And the story progresses of their first initial exam to see how good they are as heroes. Then they have an incident with the League of Villains, which is an organization made up of completely villains who hate heroes and want to overthrow them. As they believe, why are some acts of violence illegal but others aren't? And in season 2, they managed to actually attack a city, and it happens to be the city Izuku, Todoroki, and Ida are all in at that time. And they send out him, the hero killer Stain, who was motivated by All Might. And he was and just like Izuku was motivated by All Might. But he of course shows his villainry and forces Izuku, Ida, and Todoroki to fight him. They eventually end up beating him, and then his ribs crushed his lungs, and he ended up dying. And in season 3, we've just had the hero licensing exam, where now the majority of Class 1A, which is the class Izuku is from, can now use their quirks in public without it being against the law, as they have provisional licenses to become heroes. And with My Hero Academia's brand new movie 2 Heroes just being released recently, I will talk about that now, but I haven't watched it, and I really do want to watch it before talking about it, because it's done so well so far, and I haven't even seen it yet. So I'd probably enjoy it. I'm already hyped for it, and I'd be even more hyped for it when I get to watch it. But My Hero Academia comes in at number 2. Now, before we get to number 1, let's quickly say some honorable mentions. We have Lucky Star, Tokyo Ghoul, Attack on Titan, Food Wars, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, High School DxD, and Black Butler. Those 7 shows are on the honorable mentions, as they were all shows I enjoyed, but I did not enjoy them enough to put them on this list. But their recognition still needs to be noticed. Now, coming in at the number 1 spot, you already know the answer. It's exactly the same as the last list when I did the top 5. It's Dragon Ball Z. I know. Who would have ever guessed it would have been DBZ? Of course, DBZ follows the story of Goku after beating Piccolo in the martial arts tournament. His brother Raditz comes to Earth, which ends up in Goku's death. Vegeta and Nappa appear. Goku defeats Vegeta. Goku becomes a Super Saiyan against Frieza for the first time. Gohan achieves Super Saiyan 2 against Cell. Goku achieves Super Saiyan 3 against Majin Buu. Vegeta sacrifices himself against Buu. And really, Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball as a whole, is so great because I feel like any character that has a name in the show is memorable in some way. People like General Blue and Commander Red from the original Dragon Ball, they were just part of the Red Ribbon Army, but no, they are also memorable. Every character in Dragon Ball, in my opinion, is memorable in some way. The fight scenes in Dragon Ball are just so over the top, but when the majority of the characters in the show are aliens, why not have it over the top? With loads of beams and blasts and awesome transformations like Super Saiyan. Of course, Dragon Ball Super created Ultra Instinct, which around about this time a year ago finally became a thing. So yeah, Ultra Instinct is nearly 1 year old already. Time has flown. And of course, coming up in December is the brand new Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. That's going to be exciting. If you guys missed I have recorded my reaction to the second Broly trailer, and that video will be going up tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, the sacrificing of characters. How Goku sacrifices himself against Raditz so he gets a villain defeated and saves his son Gohan. Again, in the Cell saga, Goku teleports Cell off Earth and lets Cell and sacrifices himself as Cell kills him. People may complain that death not being a consequence in Dragon Ball is a bad thing. In my opinion, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's unique. Death not being a consequence in Dragon Ball is a unique thing that the other animes don't have. So I don't understand why when people start hating on Dragon Ball for saying death no consequence when that makes it unique. You're basically saying you don't want Dragon Ball to be unique. But with how successful Dragon Ball as a whole has been, it's not only one of the most popular animes ever, it's one of the most populous franchises ever. With it being so much more popular than a lot of American franchises that have a lot of popularity, but Dragon Ball still just absolutely destroys it in competition. And well, Dragon Ball has always been my favourite anime ever since I started watching it back in 2011. After, of course, playing the Budokai 1 and Budokai 2, which got me into Dragon Ball to begin with. Without those two games, would I have ever gotten into Dragon Ball? I don't know. Those two games were the set in stone for me jumping into this series, and I'm so happy I did. That's why Dragon Ball Z will come in at #1. Okay, I think that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys have enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, follow me on all my social medias, and until next time guys, catch you later.